On this session, we're going to be talking about the thing I get asked about the most, which is intuition. And the number one thing I get asked is, do I have intuition? Yes, we all have intuition. We just don't know how to listen to it because we're too distracted. We're on social media, or we think other people's opinions are better than our own. So we're going to talk about this. And if you stay around for this whole video, we're also going to talk about the things that have worked for me, as well as exercises and routines and rituals that you can incorporate and integrate into your life that will help make your intuition stronger or help you find it in the first place. So let's get to it. Let's do it. And let's stop wasting time. I'm Donna, the creator and curator of the Donna's Project, and basically I share my life and kind of the things that work for me and the things that don't. That is this dumpster fire that we are all stuck in. So we might as well do it together, and we might as well try to help each other out, and that's what we got going on. And in this session, we're talking about intuition. We're going to talk about basically the characteristics of highly intuitive people, and we're going to talk about the things that have worked for me and the things that haven't, and this is a buffet, baby. You pick what you want, you figure out the things that you may need, or just, tell me that this is all a terrible idea in the comments, but let's try it, shall we? All right. Characteristics of highly intuitive people. They are introspective. They have empathy. They are authentic. They know how to hold space for people. They're mindful. They know how to kind of do things like self-exploration. They also know when to sit in solitude. So we're going to touch upon those things. We'll go over some of the exercises. We'll go over some of the things you can do. Let's kind of go into this a little bit more. First off, introspection. The number one thing that highly intuitive people have. They sit with themselves, they ask themselves how they are, they go in, they feel the emotions, they feel the physical, they say to themselves, how am I today? How's my mood? Am I anxious? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling grounded? And am I in a good mood? Am I in a bad mood? Am I in a better mood than yesterday? And they're not afraid to feel those emotions. They're not afraid to go through the waves. They're not afraid to feel the good. They're not afraid to feel the bad. They're also not afraid to say, hey, I was a little defensive there. Or you know what? I was a bad bitch there, and I'm really glad how I showed up in that meeting. Man, sometimes I even turn myself on. They're cool with all of that. And that's something that I think has helped me out the most. And it's something that is hard because who the hell wants to admit that they're not their best? And also sometimes we also haven't been taught that we can stand in our power and show up and not dim our light and that we should shine even brighter. So again, you can do this by yourself. You can do this with therapists. You can do this with friends. Like I have a group of friends and we all sit with each other and, talk about the things that we're proud of that we've done and the ways that we could have shown up better. And we all kind of realize we're all a work in progress and that nobody's perfect. And that's how we hold space for each other. That's something we're going to talk about as we go on with this. That's like one of the other exercises. But all right, let's keep going. Solitude is the other thing. Whew. This was probably the hardest for me. Sitting with yourself. I'm someone who, prior to sitting with myself and kind of figuring out what I liked and how to detach and how to get off social media, was someone who loved to keep the party going and someone who had a lot of FOMO. And having the, self-awareness to be able to say, I can't come to your party tonight, or I'm not my best self, or my batteries are drained. And also realizing that I am no good to anybody else if I am not being good to myself. And that once I kind of am able to fill my own cup, that cup overflows and I'm able to show up for people so much more, was a huge thing for me. And I had to spend a lot of time alone. I had to spend weekends alone. I had to go on vacation alone. I had to do a lot of solo traveling, which that helped a lot. And I get it, not everybody can afford that. And yeah, I actually ended up really going OD on the credit cards when I was doing that solo traveling, and it took me a while to pay that off. So if you don't have the money for it, I don't recommend it. But you can do things like go for a drive. You can go for a walk. You can just spend a weekend home alone in your house and say, I'm not going to go on the phone. If you need me and it's an emergency, cool, but otherwise, I'm not texting back all weekend. Tell the group chat, tell your family, tell whoever. You can ask your significant other and tell them, hey, I kind of need a weekend by myself. Do you think maybe you can go, do something with your friends, or can I have some time alone this weekend if you live with somebody or you have roommates? You really got to figure out how to sit with yourself, recharge yourself, refuel yourself, and what those things are. And again, it kind of sucks in the beginning as someone who did it. And I had major FOMO, but I've had to take moments off social media. I think the longest I've done is almost 6 weeks. And when you come back, then you have to ease back into it, because for me, when I get off social media and I detach from social media for a while and then I go back into it, I feel like I am in a Las Vegas casino and I'm just buzzing, and it's entirely too much and my system gets overstimulated and overloaded very, very quickly. So figure out how you have to recharge, figure out how you have to reset, figure out how you have to unplug, and like what works for you. Give your intuition some breathing room so it can expand, and that so it can actually kind of, do its thing, and that it's actually quiet enough around you so you can listen to it and you can pay attention to it and you can hear it and you can also turn it up. Authenticity is another big thing. Highly intuitive people are authentic. They stand in their power, they're self-confident, they're self-assured, they show up as themselves, and they don't dim their light for other people. They're not wearing a mask for the rest of the world. They're not doing the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. They're not showing up being like, oh, this is how these people think I should act, or this is how I should act for these people to impress them. They're themselves. Like it, love it, leave them alone. That's what you got. The other thing is empathy. They are empaths. And if you don't know what an empath is, I'm shocked you've been watching this video, but if you don't know what an empath is, don't worry. I got a whole episode on it. I got an episode on energy vampires. You can listen to that somewhere. I'm sure someone will put it somewhere in here. And you can listen to that episode and figure out what empaths are. But empaths are basically people who can kind of feel the feels, take the temperature of the room, and they're used to kind of picking up on things that maybe the average person isn't able to pick on when it comes up to people's like feelings, their emotions. The individuals who are kind of, happy on the outside and maybe like the clown, or the person who's smiling when maybe they're really upset on the inside or crying on the inside. Empaths pick up on body language, they pick up on feelings, and they know when to hold space for people. And they also might be the people who go out of their way for others. They may be the first person you can call if you need something. But the thing about empaths, and the thing about empaths who are in touch with their intuition, is that these people who are really in touch with their intuition and really in touch with themselves, they know that you can't show up for others if your own cup isn't full. They know that they have to take care of themselves, and they know that they have to recharge their batteries. And this might be an issue that people who aren't in touch with these things and who aren't so aware, they may show up as empaths and they may get their batteries drained. People who kind of sit with themselves and takes time for solitude and are able to kind of fill their own batteries up and who are able to take care of themselves know that they can't show up for people if they are not showing up for themselves. And they know that you can't pour from an empty cup. So they try to refill themselves, whether that's through self-discovery, whether that's through some of the exercises and routines that we're going to talk about, or through solitude, or through introspection. And they know that they need to take time out, because if their cup is full, then it overflows and it goes into other areas of their life and they're able to show up for other people. So that's why it's very important to find balance. Another thing that they do is they seek safe spaces. They seek out spaces where they're welcome, where they can show up as themselves, where they can be authentic, where they can say, hey, I need to take a break, or maybe I can't come to that, or maybe I can only come for an hour because I'm really tired and I'm kind of like running on E. They don't go to places where, people are throwing a parade for them, like I said on the podcast episode, but they go to places where they're celebrated. They go to places where people hold space for them, where they hold space for other people, and where people let them show up as themselves and they can be themselves and they feel safe and they feel understood. Just a quick break to tell you about A Year of Self, which is the 13-month calendar and planner that I made that helps you figure out your gratitude practice, helps you set your intentions. It has a lunar calendar in it. It has self-care mapping. It has a weekly planner. It has a monthly planner, and it's on the Donnas.shop if you want to go get it. Okay, back to our video. Highly intuitive people are explorative. They look for new experiences. They seek out things that maybe put themselves out of their comfort zone. They look to acquire new skills or expand on their current skill set. And they kind of use exploration as a means of self-discovery and a way to kind of like tap into themselves and learn more about themselves. They also tap into their creativity. And again, this could mean like starting a project. This could mean painting your house. This could be being a photographer like I am. Or it can mean just figuring out more creative ways to solve problems, whether that be at work, whether that be in your friendship circles, whether that be a creative approach to something and, something that's a little bit more complex. They really tap into the creative components and they like to be around creativity, whether they are necessarily artists or creatives, but they appreciate creativity. They may go to museums, they may watch films, they may go watch dance performances in theater, and they kind of tap into those things because they realize it really develops other components of them and other kind of components of self. And then they're able to draw on that, again, whether they're an artist or not, or whether they're doing artistic things, but they're able to draw on it in other areas of their life. This can be planning a great party to figuring out how to solve something complex when it comes to a spreadsheet or an analytical problem at work, or kind of figuring out how to design and figure out the process for something. They're able to call on their creativity and figure these things out, and they use their intuition for that. And it's because they're in touch with their intuition that they're able to kind of draw on that for solving these complex problems. Mindfulness, whether it's through journaling, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through those things like body scans, is another huge thing. Being mindful, knowing when to react, knowing when to slow down, knowing when to offer a response, when to be responsive versus when to pull back, when someone may need advice or when someone just may need a shoulder to cry on or somebody to listen. They're mindful of themselves, they're mindful of their surroundings, and they're mindful of kind of what's going on with other people. And again, that goes back to kind of that empath and that empathy and knowing how to take the temperature of the water and kind of feeling the feels. They feel their own feels, they sit with themselves, they have practices for this, whether it's taking a walk, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation. They kind of figure out their own systems. Through mindfulness, they're able to make decisions very concrete and from a very grounded place instead of, brashly or rashly or overreacting or even underreacting. They know when to kind of go with their first choice, when they're overthinking versus when they're underthinking. And this is a huge thing, and this is something that really helps your intuition grow. They also use their past experiences to kind of draw and figure out the decisions and the creative decisions, again, going back to creativity of how to solve problems and how to approach things in their life. So all of these things kind of work tandem with each other, and they all kind of help each other out and flow together. And some of the exercises and things that you can do to kind of help yourself out would be things like journaling, would be things like mindfulness practices, knowing when to detach, listening to your senses. When you eat a meal, really seeing that, really feeling the textures, smelling the smells, taking time to taste it. When you go for a walk, unplugging, taking out the headphones or putting the phone away and really walking around and seeing your environment, looking at the trees, looking at the sky, looking at the buildings, listening to the sounds, smelling what's going on in the air, seeing these things, hearing the birds chirping and really paying attention to all of these things. Looking up, looking sideways, looking down, looking at the gravel, looking at what you're walking on and also looking up at the sky and then looking at the horizon and taking in the entire thing that's around you. Knowing when to detach from social media, knowing when to detach from people, knowing when you're overstimulated, knowing when you need some stimulation, knowing when you need some creativity or some new experiences or some stuff that has to push you out of your comfort zone. Identifying when maybe you're getting into a rut and maybe you need to go out and be around people, or also when you've been leaning on people too much and when you need to kind of pull back and detach. You also kind of need to know what you're putting in your body. And when I mean putting in your body and what you're consuming, I mean everything from TV, social media, movies, music, to food, and to things like exercise and how you're spending your energy and also how you're giving yourself energy. You can't be pulling from an empty battery. So things like movement, things like nutrition, things like food, things like rest, as well as what are you watching? What are you reading? Are you watching things that are giving you anxiety or causing worry or making you not feel good? Or are you watching things that are, funny, making you laugh, that are maybe, filling you up and educating you and exposing you to things that you might not necessarily been exposed to and kind of expanding your horizons. So you have to think about all of those things. Daydreaming is another thing. It's great. You can daydream like you used to do in school, where you just sit there and kind of make up a scene in your head or kind of take your thoughts and go with them where you may want to go. Or you can put on music and different types of music and go along with where the music takes you and kind of let yourself daydream to the song and kind of just go with it. Don't fight it and just kind of see where it takes you. See what comes up emotionally, see what ideas come up, and go from there. Pay attention to your energy. Pay attention to what fuels you. Pay attention to what depletes you. Are there people in your life who are energy vampires? Are there people in your life who make you feel good? Are there places and spaces that you go to where you just feel amazing? Is there that one workout class that after you take it, you just feel so energized? Maybe that other workout class that when you go to, you feel terrible for 3 or 4 days. It's okay because you're getting a good workout, but maybe you need to take some more time in between to kind of refuel yourself. I also want you to think about where your intuition has worked for you. Where has it failed you? And then go back and pull back bigger and say, okay, when my intuition was working for me, I was doing these type of exercises. I was eating this type of food. I was taking this time for myself. I was hanging out with these people. I was doing this type of mindfulness. I was journaling. Figure out the things that were kind of working in your favor, and then look at when it hasn't worked for you. Were you listening to other people's opinions over your own? Were you distracted by a lot of things? Maybe were you drinking too much? Were you staying out too late? Were you not exercising? Were you over exercising? Were you, doing dieting that maybe wasn't the best for you? Were you not fueling yourself with good nutrition? So figure out where it's worked, where it hasn't worked, and then kind of pull back and go further and think of the things that have contributed to it working and to the things that it might not have, making it work so well, and then kind of pull back on those things and add the things that you think you may need. And then the last thing is that you have to realize that this is something you just got to work on. It's not something that happens overnight. And even if you do have it and if you are in tune with it, you can refine it and you can define it a little bit more and you can maybe tweak it and get it to serve you a little bit better than it already has. You don't get this overnight, especially if you don't know how to listen to it or don't know how it shows up in your system or shows up in your body. Are you more mental? Are you more emotional? Are you more gut? Yes or no? And again, if you're gut and you're yes or no, then you got to learn to not have the whole explanation or the reasoning why. If you're an emotional responder and this stuff kind of shows up for you and you need time and you need to feel the feels, you have to be able to know when to separate from people and tell people, hey, I need time with this. I can't make this decision overnight. And you have to be able to feel grounded in that and authentic in that and say, this is what I need in order to make this decision. And I'm sorry, I can't give this decision to you right now at this moment in time. Again, life isn't always working in our favor, and sometimes you have to give that decision, and sometimes you have to give that explanation or that reasoning. Like for me, if I'm at work and I say, oh, this is what I think we should do, people want to know why. They want an explanation. They can't go with, well, my gut's telling me to do that. I work in medicine, so I kind of have to have some evidence-based practice, or I have to have some reasoning and rationale and some clinical to back it up. So again, life is going to call on us to, give the explanation or not maybe be in the time period that they want. But as we're in this and as we're developing our intuition and we're able to stand more grounded in it, we're able to operate and kind of make decisions from a more secure place and from a place where we trust ourselves a little bit more. And this is a work in progress. And again, like I said, doesn't happen overnight. Give yourself some space, give yourself some grace. But if you work on it and you remember that this is part of your routine and something that is going to need some tending to and some cultivating, I think you're going to get pretty far along. If you've been doing some things that I haven't talked about, or you have some things that have worked for you, or things that haven't, I would love to hear about it in the comments. So if you can put that below. That's pretty much it. Follow, like, subscribe. I'll see you on the other side. And I hope this worked. And listen to the podcast if you want. Okay, bye guys.